everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Soul-u-tions podcast. I am super excited about today's episode because it's going to be a little bit of a new take on the Soul-u-tions podcast. I was talking to one of my producers here, David Bash at Get Up Productions, and I was like, you know what, David, I was having this kind of thought about doing some bite-sized podcasts. What do you think about that? And he goes, oh my goodness, Tara, I was actually looking at, another podcast influencers podcast feed, and they do something like that. And he said, I think that would be great for you. So this is going to be the first of what I hope to be a series of bite-sized Soul-u-tions podcasts, just the right size for you to listen to in the morning or when you just have 10 minutes or less. So listen to the introduction, get your coffee and your journal, and meet me on the other side. Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find Soul-u-tions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
So for our first Bite-Sized Soul-u-tions podcast episode, I wanted to revisit one of my favorite tools, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background first. This was something that I taught, golly, back in 2018, 2019, a lot. And I taught it because it was something that I needed very much. I was going through a friendship transition. This is something we don't talk a lot about that happens in adulthood, that you have your ride or die people, and I don't know, a convergence of things happen in life that kind of pull you in different directions, or all of a sudden you're just no longer in a season of ride or die. Or what happened to me, there was this new person that was in my person's life, and I was so confused. I didn't understand what was going on, and I really didn't know about this new person except for I saw a lot of the social media feed that they were spending a lot of time together, and my friend and I were not spending as much time together. And I struggled with it. And I was like, how do I get through this? I was so jealous, combination, jealousy, envy, sadness, hurt. I didn't know what to do. And at that time, I was studying Richard Rohr's work a great deal. And for those of you who don't know Richard is a Franciscan priest, and he is an author of a lot of wonderful spiritual books. And he's also the founder of the Center for Action and Contemplation. What is the Center for Action and Contemplation? Well, it's a center where he thought he would help train people to take compassionate action in the world. When he first founded this center, he thought the recipe of action to contemplation was going to be 80% action and 20% contemplation. That 80% of the time you would be in active action of changing the world, and 20% of the time you would be in prayer or some sort of silent meditation as preparation for the action that you were going to take. What he found within a few years of opening the center was that the recipe was actually the opposite. 80% contemplation to 20% action. Like, he found that his students needed to spend 80% of their time in centering prayer or some type of compassionate mindfulness exercise in order to ground his students into a place of compassion and neutrality to take the type of action that really does have the result of creating change in the world. So as I was studying Richard Rohr at the time, and he shared this particular tool and discovery of his own, I wondered, what if I could take that insight of his and apply it to this friendship situation that I had? Because I wanted to call her. I had a lot of questions to ask, and that instinct to just get right into action mode. And yet I knew that I felt a little defensive. Whenever I rehearsed it in my head or I felt it in my body, I felt this defensive-ness arise in me, or this sense that I needed to protect myself or defend myself, or there's a little bit of an attack element or an aggressive element there. And I just didn't like that feeling. And so I thought, well, maybe what I need to do is spend some more time in contemplation or mindfulness. And that's when I thought about including in this kind of contemplation area this idea of the Metta Prayer. This is a Buddhist meditation, and I had found it helpful in other areas of my life. And listen, if you go and you Google the Metta Prayer, and that's Metta prayer, you will find that there are like 1,000 uses for it and 1,000 different ways that people use it. But one of the ways that people use it, in particular in this, as a way of conjuring an emotional state of what Buddhists call loving kindness. And I thought, well, what better antidote to defensiveness, protection, attacking, aggression, and hurt than loving kindness? That I needed loving kindness for myself. And if I was going to take action, i.e. have a conversation with my friend, I knew that if it could come from a place of loving kindness, that it would have, a greater impact. And so I embarked upon a 30-day loving kindness challenge where I simply every morning sat, and I actually recorded this on a voice memo on my iPhone at the time. And I just recorded myself going through the loving kindness meditation so that every morning I could just hit play and have a voice lead me through it. So that's what I'm going to lead you through now. But it came up on Tuesday's Soul-u-tions Labs class. There are several people who are having really challenging times. One person is having a challenging time with her spouse. There's a pretty big life-changing, life-altering event that has happened in their lives, and there's some anger about things. And so she was having that situation. Another friend is going through a friendship friendship conflict. Sorry. And it was going on in that part of life. Another person had there were about 4 or 5 different relationships that came up. And in asking some of our OG Soul-u-tions Labs members, what had helped them get through really dark, hard relationship things in their life, one of our members, Althea Kingsmill, said, when I was going through my divorce, Tara, that Metta Prayer is what helped me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'd totally forgotten about that. So I thought this would be the perfect short. So with that, I'm taking a deep breath and we're going to get to it. So get comfortable where you are. If you're at your desk, you can bring your hands together, like a right hand sitting in the left hand, or even, right hand, left hand over your heart. Just get really comfortable, seated position. If you're driving, keep your eyes open and your hands on the wheel. If you're walking, it's probably a good idea to keep your eyes open as well. But just kind of invite your body to relax. I'm going to lead you through just with some cues, just like you would be if you were in a yoga class where the teacher says, take this position next. Just relax, and I'm going to lead you through the meditation. Bring your attention to your breath. Inhale and exhale deeply. Inhale again. And exhale, and with that exhale, just feel yourself letting go of all the things on your to-do list of the day. One more inhale and one more exhale to settle. And I want you to bring to mind yourself in this moment, and maybe placing your hand over your heart. I want you to extend to yourself a sense of loving kindness. Loving kindness for all the things that you've experienced in your life up into this point. Life, great 50-50 of life. And just recognize and receive all the love for yourself. And take another breath here as you receive that. And now I want you to bring to mind someone who's close to you, someone who is easy to love in your life. This could be an animal, or a child, or a family member or a friend. And I want you to take a breath and extend loving kindness to this person who's really easy to love. I want you to feel the warmth of your heart extending to this person, the loving kindness that you've already deposited into yourself, multiply, and just extend out, like if it was a ripple, if you had dropped a pebble into a pond and it rippled out to that first ripple. This would be this person. And next, I want you to bring to your attention an acquaintance, someone who you don't know too well, but whenever you see her or him, you notice that you feel a lightness about you. A smile arises on your face. You're happy to meet them and greet them. And extend some loving kindness to this person. As you access that well within you that you deposited the loving kindness in, you've extended it out to that person who's easy to love, and then extend it out to the next ripple, to this acquaintance. And next, I want you to bring to mind a stranger, someone you don't know, but perhaps you come into contact with them at the grocery store, at the gas station, just someone that you bump into, you don't know them at all, and you exchange a smile with them. This is the next ripple out from the acquaintance, and then extend loving kindness to them. All right, now I want you to bring to mind that relationship that you're struggling with right now. You might have had crosswords with a person. You might have a really strong feeling of hurt, frustration, anger. Like you might even have some rage built up in connection with this person. I want you to take an inhale, and as you inhale, I want you to feel like that well where the pebble dropped in the water within you. I want you to feel yourself accessing the loving kindness that's in that well. Let it ripple out to the loved one, the acquaintance, the stranger, and now just let it naturally ripple out to that person for whom you have hard feelings. You don't have to make a big effort for this. Just think about it as the natural next ripple. If that pebble had been dropped in the water, it would just naturally have 5 ripples. It's a little fainter. It's not as strong as that first ripple is, right? Like you're starting to lose the shape of it or the peak of it in the water, but it's there. And then just let it go. And then the next ripple is just let your sense of loving kindness ripple out into the world. Beyond the Earth's atmosphere to the galaxy, the stars. Just like feel that sense of loving kindness, like reaching out as far as light can reach. And now I want you to imagine yourself like if you were gathering for a big hug, right? Like your arms come out. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can kind of see my ballet moves here. Like a swimmer's arms that come all the way out and it pulls back in from that far out ripple to the stars and the galaxy. And then it gathers up that person that you're having a hard time with. The loving kindness to the stranger. You're coming in a little bit closer to the acquaintance, to the one who's easy to love. And then you just bring it all back to yourself, hand over your heart. Breathe that feeling of your initial deposit into yourself, that initial pebble, the ripple outward of all that loving kindness, and then the gathering back in of all the loving kindness that's in the entire universe, stars, galaxy, all the way back into yourself. And carry this feeling with you as you go about your day, the next steps of your day to day. And what I would encourage you to do is just give yourself a 30-day challenge. Come back to this podcast, save it, put a reminder in your phone to listen to it, share it with a friend, and put it sometime on your calendar, a reminder to listen to this every day. Don't worry about taking action with this friend. Don't worry about the conversation that you think you need to have with this person. Let this be your 80% of, centering prayer that you do before you take that action, and do it for 30 days. And you will marvel at the shift that begins to occur within you in relationship to this other person, and how, while it won't change the circumstances that have happened in your relationship, it will remind you of how loved you are and how much love you have to give. And it will open the aperture of your heart up in connection with the situation. And kind of like what I said in the early episode of the Soul-u-tions podcast, how your soul, like it's a Soul-u-tion, right? Like how you can dissolve salt into water and it can melt. Let it be like that. And I think what I'm going to do is, I have a feeling I've gone way over from my initial bite-sized podcast episode. But what I'll do is I'll have Charles just take that meditation part out of it too, so you can have this whole podcast to listen to. And then we'll have the little meditation part, so you won't have to worry about queuing up your podcast to this. So thank you. And if you want to let me know how it goes, I'd love to hear from you. You can either put it in the reviews, or you can go to Tara Simkins, TaraSimkins.com, get on my mailing list, and you'll start to receive my regular weekly emails, and just reply to one of them and tell me how it worked for you. I'm eager to hear. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.
'Cause I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead. And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities. The left and the right and some faith in the fight in your cup.